Today I'm going to be ranking my top 3 combat sports, and obviously this channel is an MMA channel. When I break down fights, I break down MMA fights. When I actually do my own coaching, I coach MMA, but a spoiler alert, MMA isn't number 1. So actually basing it off is a couple things. Obviously how entertaining the actual product is, how many superstars there are, and how many people actually want to watch the combat sport that it is. So number 3 might surprise a lot of people, is boxing. And the reason it is boxing is, me personally, there's so many boring fights out there. The actual product, in my opinion, just isn't as good as the other two. And don't be wrong, you've got loads of good superstars. That's why it's still number 3. You've got Canelo Alvarez, Ryan Garcia, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. There's so many good fighters, I should say, not fights. And that's another issue. Before Taiki Al-Sheikh come in, people weren't fighting each other. And now that he's come in, he's making like Bivol, Benavidez, amazing fight. Eubank Ben, amazing fight. Tyson Fury, Usyk, great fight as well. That's why we're getting such good product now. But before that, I feel like it was just on such a decline. MMA was on such an incline, which is why I think now it's overtook it as the superior combat sport. But to actually watch boxing, like if you just watch a normal boxing fight, there's a lot of boring fights. The fights the other weekend, it's meant to be the biggest weekend in boxing history. Canelo Alvarez fighting, Ryan Garcia's fighting, Devin Haney's fighting, and all the fights were rubbish. Canelo Alvarez won, the fella just ran away from him. Devin Haney was just jab, move, jab, move. It was rubbish. And I am definitely a casual at boxing, so people might come in here and be like, oh, you can't talk about boxing, you're a casual, whatever, because I know a lot of people get offended when people bring up the fact that boxing isn't as good as MMA, and in my opinion it's not. Don't be wrong, they promote their fights a lot better than MMA. Obviously an MMA guru talking about that, but the reason they have to do that is because the actual product is nowhere near as good as MMA. If you watch an average MMA fight, it will be good. And I think what's happened now is in boxing, there's too many superstars. We'll come on to this a bit later with the UFC, but Canelo Alvarez can say who he wants to fight, can say how much he wants to fight, how much he wants for that fight. And now Taiki Al-Sheikh's come in, it's a little bit different. But before that, anyone could fight anyone. Like Canelo Alvarez could choose whoever he wants. And just to sum it up, them fights the other weekend, I looked on all the betting apps. Canelo Alvarez, you put 33 quid on, you get a quid back, you get a pound back. What even is the point in that fight? And then looking on the card too, there's fights where you put £100 on, you get £1 back. There was 3 of them on the same Canelo Alvarez fight. Like, what is even the point in them fights? This thing about boxing where you cannot lose is ridiculous. You look at people in the UFC like Morgan Charrier, whose record's 20 wins and 11 losses. And he's still a big name in MMA in France. He's a huge name, everyone loves him. And people want to see him fight. Where if someone had a 20 and 11 record in boxing, they'd be known as a bum, as a can. Like, no one would care about him, which is why I cannot put boxing second or first. People might have it first, and obviously, especially in America, people love it. But in my opinion, I think in the UK, it's definitely, especially where I'm from, Liverpool, people care more about MMA and the UFC. Obviously, you've got Paddy Pimblett, Darren Till, even like Tom Aspinall's up the road. There's so many big fighters in Liverpool for UFC where I'm from. Don't get me wrong, there's loads of great boxers too, Tony Bellew, people like that. The average boxing fight, I'd say when I watch it, 7 out of 10 boxing fights are boring. You get the exception, which is why when there is an exception, it is so good and so fun. The Chris Eubank Conor Benn fight the other weekend was amazing. The Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder one was amazing. Loads of Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fights were amazing. And then even like Better Be Dead Bivol has been so good and everyone's so hyped for them fights. But I feel like now people aren't even hyped for Devin Haney fighting, for Canelo Alvarez fighting, because you know he's just going to go in, smash someone. That's why there's so much hype for Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez coming up, meant to be in September. I know people are saying Canelo might even retire before that, but I doubt it. I do reckon that fight will happen. But yeah, in my opinion, boxing is definitely fair, it's definitely better than the others that I'm not going to mention just because they have the superstars, but the actual product is not that good. I've been to watch boxing shows and there's loads of boring fights. The crowd can't even get into it sometimes because the fights are that rubbish, because it's just one fella who's they want to take to the top. He's fighting some absolute nobody who's a builder on the weekend and in the week, sorry, and it's just, I don't know, it's a weird dynamic boxing. It's definitely getting better, which is a good thing for boxing. It is just my opinion. Obviously I am a casual for boxing, but I would also arguably say I'm a casual for number one, and I still have it as number one. So let me know what you think. Do you think that's a wild shout? But when you listen to number two and number one, maybe you'll say it was reasonable. Number two is obviously MMA. If it's not going to be number one, it's definitely not going to be number four. It's definitely not going to be below boxing. But MMA, it is, in my opinion, if you take out, so number one, I've got number one in. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I've got number one at number one because I actually think to go and watch it live event, it's so much better than any combat sport out there, and that's why I've got it in at number one. Obviously all the other stuff that still makes a great combat sport is still really good, but overall product, if you take out just watching it live, MMA is definitely the best. It doesn't require superstars. It doesn't, like, look, Conor McGregor now, no one's going, oh my god, we need Conor McGregor to fight, or the UFC isn't on a decline because Conor McGregor isn't fighting. If the biggest superstars in in boxing weren't fighting, no one would really be watching that many boxing fights, in my opinion. I don't think that when I talk to my friends, they never go, oh, I'm going to watch the boxing on the weekend, but they go, oh, I'm going to watch the UFC on the weekend, even if it's a rubbish card. Like this weekend, it's Erin Blanchfield versus Macy Barber main event, Matthias Gamrot versus Ludwig Klein co-main event. I know loads of people who are going to be watching that fight, and it's not that good of a main event. Obviously, it's not that good of a co-main event, but the actual product is so good. Fights are amazing to watch. Doesn't matter if it's grappling, striking, doesn't matter. Either way, the fight's going to be amazing. And don't get me wrong, that obviously is boring fights. Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza, one of the worst fights, if not the worst fight in UFC history. But it just doesn't require superstars at all. This weekend, I guarantee you, Matthias Gamrot versus Ludwig Klein is going to be an absolute banger. It's going to be such a fun watch. I just think when I watched a UFC event, for example, there's like 6 or 7 finishes. When I watch boxing, most of them are decisions, and the finishes are just, like I said before, some really sick fighter who's trained from the age of 2, just absolutely beating up some old fella who's literally a side job, whose job it is just to get beaten up. Where obviously there will be cases of that in MMA. People might say Khabib Nurmagomedov's record. That's quite rare. That doesn't actually happen that often in MMA. Obviously Khabib's record wasn't the greatest before he got to the UFC, but he ended up being 29-0, so why does that matter? But the when you look at like Ilia Topuria, he fought sick fighters before he got to the UFC. And this thing about UFC not needing superstars, obviously Paddy Pimblett, Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, these are superstars. They're not superstars in the way where obviously people do go out their way to just watch their fight, but they'll go out their way to watch the whole UFC. Me included, and loads of my friends and loads of people I know, if Canelo Alvarez fighting, or Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, if that fight was to get made, you'd go on and you'd watch the last 2 fights, maybe the co-main event and the main event, because the card's not that good. Maybe there might be a couple of people who you might want to watch, but in the UFC, you watch all the fights. And even outside of the UFC, obviously this is a bit different because obviously boxing, it's not like it's one organisation with all the best talent, but even outside of it, we've obviously got KSW, Octagon, Cage Warriors, PFL, all these other organisations still put on great fights. The greatest fight I've ever watched in my life, Dean Garnett versus Lewis McGuillen, that is a PFL fight. If you've never watched that fight, go and watch it. It's the best fight in MMA history. But when we actually look at just the actual idea of the 3 biggest superstars probably in MMA is Conor McGregor, Khabib Nurmagomedov and John Jones. Obviously Khabib's retired recently, John Jones barely fights, and Conor McGregor hasn't fought in years. If that happened in boxing, if say Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford and I don't know, Usyk or Tyson Fury didn't fight, there'd be a pretty big difference. I think boxing would have a decline, not an incline, where the UFC dead free on fighting and it's still an incline. Don't be wrong, there's definitely stuff that I'm not liking in the UFC at the moment. I think the ticket prices are a joke, And don't be wrong, I'm not a huge fan of some of the matchmaking recently. I think Evloev should obviously fight. I think Gaethje shouldn't be near a title shot. But it's like that in every combat sport. There's going to be stuff you disagree with. And it's just like that in every business, to be honest. Every sport. There's definitely, obviously, on the weekend, the footy, Aston Villa not getting that decision. There's just stuff you disagree with in every sport. But overall, I think MMA is definitely probably the best product in combat sport, and it's definitely better than boxing in my opinion, and it is very fun to watch. But in number one, and before we talk about number one, honourable mentions, Jiu-Jitsu is my favourite to train, Jiu-Jitsu, but to watch it's not that entertaining. Judo, wrestling, Taekwondo, Karate, these are all really good, but I'm not going to watch them really outside of the Olympics. I like Karate Combat, I really think they're doing really good with that. But in at number one is Muay Thai. And in Muay Thai and kickboxing, but I'm going more Muay Thai because it's more mainstream, but mostly the reason it is number one is 6 months ago or a year ago, it would have been obviously MMA without a doubt. And Muay Thai probably wouldn't have even been in the top 3. But my mind has absolutely changed because if you go watch a live Muay Thai event, that's high level. So a high level Muay Thai event, it will be the greatest combat sports event you'll ever watch. Doesn't matter if you know nobody. I've been in Thailand and I've been to a couple fights now. I went to watch them in the Raja Damna Stadium and I didn't know a single fighter and it was unbelievable. Every fight is amazing, utter violence, and you don't even get, in my opinion, don't get that many finishes. A lot of them go to decision, but it's just utter violence. The toughest fighters in the world with crazy endurance, crazy strength, crazy technique. You get 5 Thai fellas in the corner shouting, "Nee, nee." It's amazing to watch. And in the crowd, the whole crowd are hyped up. Do stuff in between fights where they still entertain the crowd and the crowd love it. And everyone's there just to watch utter violence. And every single person in the crowd wants to see violence. And the fighters realise that. And all the fights are so good. You don't see these people who are just sitting on the edge, leg kick, jab, leg kick, jab, leg kick. You can't really do that in Muay Thai. The ring's tiny, and the other fella's just adding, or girl is just putting so much pressure on you. And it's not like this thing where the thing in MMA and UFC is people go, women's fights are rubbish. If you go watch a women's Muay Thai fight, it is unbelievable, so good. When I went to watch in the Raja Damna Stadium, there was 2 women and both of them had crazy knockouts. One had a spinning back elbow knockout and one had like a downwards cutting elbow and it just sliced the girl's face open and it was crazy. And it's so good to watch. If you're ever in Thailand, you have to go watch a Muay Thai event, a live Muay Thai event. You've got kids 14 years old smashing each other. It's so good to watch. And as well too, it doesn't even matter if you're in Thailand. I've watched fights in Bali, unbelievable. You watch fights in the UK, unbelievable. And the difference between high level Muay Thai, like I went to watch it in the Raja Damna Stadium, as it's just said. The ticket is 40 quid. I've been to watch UFC, I've went to watch UFC in London, 180 quid, and I'm stood at the very top. Like the difference is insane. I went to watch it in Bali the other week, last weekend, and I was in a booth, 12 quid the ticket was. It was crazy, and the fights are so good. They make a huge thing about the fighters too. They value the fighters so much, and the reason it is obviously number one, like I keep saying, is because a live event is so good. But other than that, they have great superstars. They have obviously Rodtang, Superlex, so many. Even in the UK, Liam Harrison, Jonathan Haggerty. There's so many good fighters, and if you're watching it on the telly too, it's the same vibe. Still violent, you still sat on the edge of your seat going, oh my god. And I just think if we even just break down the top 3 on Muay Thai, it's got the most fun fights and the most often that they're fun. MMA, it's got loads of fun fights, but there is a couple of stinkers in there. Boxing, there's a lot of stinkers there. And I think that's what I'm basing my top 3 on. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have I missed a combat sport out? I'm a big casual to the other combat sports. And I am a casual to boxing, but I'm also a casual to Muay Thai. So I'm only really hardcore on MMA. So I don't think anyone could come at me with the casual line, but let me know what you think in the comments. What would you have? Would you have MMA number 1, Muay Thai 3, boxing 2? Let me know. But click the like button, click subscribe, and I will see you later.